Welcome back to Changing Latitudes. In this episode, we're going to take this house and turn it into this table. Stick with us. When we purchased this home in North Idaho, it came with a series of outbuildings that were in front of the houses. The truth of the matter was that most of them were in disrepair, including this one to the left of me. It was the home for somebody in the 1960 era, and when the 70s came along, somebody pulled up an RV to it, cut out the back, and put the RV up against it as almost like a living room situation. What you see in the plywood is covering all this fine Doug fir that sat behind it. This Doug fir literally ranged from 1.5 inches, 2 inches thick to 24 inches wide, and in some cases literally 6x6 posts. Everything's nice and dried out from 70 years of being out there. Obviously there's some rot as well, which we'll go through and cutting it out as we go share this videos out with you. Also too, it was loaded with nails. As you know, of course, the joinery was just your classic nail it in, staple it in, everything else. So we have to take all of that out. So this video will be about selecting the wood, cleaning it up, and getting it ready for milling. The second video in this series will be about sizing the wood, getting it milled down, getting it ready to go for the joinery process, which will be the third video where I will literally join it, put the stain to it, put the varnish onto it, and bring it to the table that you see in front. Now you're only seeing the top. This table is 8 foot long, 2 foot wide, and of course your standard height. It also has some beautiful X-frame legs on the two ends, and it is a kind of a bar table. It is not your classic dining room table. This table will sit in our kitchen area as a bar counter more than really a table. It will be set up such that it's 8 foot long with 3 chairs in the front and then 2 side chairs available. What it is designed to do is allow you to basically have your morning breakfast, morning coffee, what have you, look out across the property. So it's not your dining room table. That'll be a table I will build in the future, but right now we're on to this bar table. With that, I'm going to go ahead and jump out to the shop and get started. It's wood selection time, and we have an 8x2 top with very thick legs, as I've shown in the pictures. They come down into an X formation below, and of course it has a substrate that also is pretty thick, so there's a lot of wood to be demanded here. What is interesting about taking down the barn wood, we had to obviously do a lot of work to get it to be come out with all the nails on it and all the staples that were in it, but it still has a lot of good wood in there. And we had always had the intention of going to work with it and using it. Didn't know what it would become, and frankly this table wasn't number one in my head, but I thought, hey, we have it here. There's quite a bit of it. Some of it obviously is going to find its way to the burn pile, but for the most part we've gone through and grabbed everything we think is going to be viable. So like I said, today I'm going to go ahead and bring it, select it, bring it off to the side. This is pretty dirty stuff, so I'm going to go ahead and clean it up with a grinder and get it all the debris off of it, so that doesn't ruin the equipment. Having all that dirt in there really kind of wears down your teeth on your equipment. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and get into this. My hand is currently on a board that's about, I would say, about 20 feet long and 1.5 inches thick, 17 inches wide. As much as I'm tempted to touch that board, I think I'm not going to use that. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and kind of think through what I want to do. Also have to consider, when doing something like this, your equipment. And how wide is that equipment? How can it consume the product that you're putting through it? So at the current moment, we have a joiner that's only 6 inches wide. Now we have another inbound joiner that's going to double that to get it out to 12. And of course we have planers at the moment that are only 12 inches wide. We're going to go out to 15. And then we're going to also have ourselves 20-inch belt sander. So even with all that, we're still going to be a little bit short of having the ability to throw the tabletop through the equipment out all at once. So there's going to be some joinery. We're going to have to be very good with that joinery and make sure that nothing comes off of, slightly off. You're going to feel that 32nd of an inch. So it's very important that we get that perfectly laid out, and we'll go through that process with you. So with the tabletop being 24 inches wide, it's going to be either a 4x6, a 6x4, or a 3x8 when we get the other joiner and equipment multiplication out, right? So less joints are better from the point of view of making sure everything's level, to my point about some of the restrictions on the equipment. But also too, for strength, it is not a bad idea to have more boards going opposite directions of each other and getting that, that to work to your favor too, as the natural changes of the wood. This should be extremely dry wood. We estimate that this barn, as I said earlier in the video, was built somewhere pre-1960s. It's the only time that the records show. So this is really dry wood. It's been out there forever. And so we think it's got all the moisture out of it, and it's ready to be worked with. Really nice. Put a good product out there. Perfect for the feet. That looks to be perfect for the feet. We'll see. But it looks good at the moment. That's some of the challenge with reclaimed wood, right? You're dealing with stuff that's cracked. That's what kind of the appeal of it is too, right? To make it more rustic looking. So I just got to balance that off in my head. I think I've selected the wood that I'll be using for the majority of the table here. They're only about 15 feet long, which means that I don't get 2 runs out of these boards. However, I will get, the ends and some of the cross members for the legs and stuff like that out of the same board. So I'm going to go ahead and go forward and clean them up. Oh, it's a snowy winter day, and I've got the stove on and burning hot, as I just showed, and it's a great day to get out to the wood shop and start working on this table. You know, I'm continuing to clean this wood up here, and of course it's a good thing that I'm doing so because there are staples everywhere, nails through this wood. As as I showed you before, this is actually the old barn that was on the property, so old barn wood, and of course it was used structurally, so plenty of nails and staples in it. So I'm going to continue to clean this up and eventually get to a point to start cutting the rough sizing and getting that going. Really clean, actually. This particular board here is about 4 inches by 6. This is going to end up being the footing, and so I can see this really coming together nicely. It's got some character here with its cracked, but you take yourself again. This table is only going to be 24 inches wide, so you're going to take about a 2 foot here, maybe a 2 foot here. You get yourself, cleaned up, and be a nice footing to it. And again, that character is what we're looking for, right, in the barn wood, build of this thing, is to bring that character back to life and make it useful again. So yeah, looking good. Damn. With the wood all cleaned up and removed all the nails that I could visibly see, I've got it all stacked up and we're about ready to get to milling. But there's one step that we have to step into first, and that is I have to test the wood to make sure that I didn't have any missing nails that I just didn't discover. There will be little staples, and I think we'll have to endure that are kind of embedded in, and it would probably be more damage to the wood that's not necessary. But the nails we definitely want to get out. Those 2-inch rusted big nails that are in there, we want to make sure those are all gone. So the first thing I'm going to do is break out this Demond electronic, nail finder, and or I guess generically metal finder, and see what we get out of it. I've never used it before, really. One of the things I had when I tested it was that if you were around metal in any structure, of course it was going to pick it up. So I've built kind of a buffer around the wood to try to make sure that I'm really identifying if there's an issue with the particular piece that I'm working with. So it's kind of really cool if you look at it. It's just a little simple wand. Comes with a nice carry pack you put on your belt. And yeah, here you go. So signed on, ready to go. So one of the challenges, of course, is going to be finding out whether or not the piece of wood itself has metal in it anywhere, without picking up something that's on another piece of board or something. Right about now I'm thinking, man, is there something wrong with this thing? But there isn't. It picks up the metal. So good. Got what looks to be a clean board so far. And one of the things that would be a complete bummer is to buy new equipment and then damage it by simply leaving a nail in that was just not seen. And the amount of dirt that was on these and as much scrubbing I had to do, it could lend your way to actually having that happen. So that board appears to be as clean as can be. I'm going to go ahead and throw it up and ready to go. It worked again because I was up against the metal. So I'm going to do a couple more testing here, and we'll get to milling some wood. It's incredibly cool to take down a structure like that frankly was an eyesore and turn it into something beautiful. Of course, one of the challenges with reclaimed wood, particularly if it's been jointed together with nails and staples, is removing all those nails. And frankly, in this video, it was the hardest thing I had to do. Selecting's easy, cleaning up it is what it is, but removing those nails was quite the bear. You don't want those nails, obviously, to go into the phase where we go to mill the wood and run into it, and of course, damage the equipment. So, I'm going to close out this video. We're going to get into the second video where we're going to go ahead and do the milling process and set ourselves up for success to glue it all together into the third video, which will be where we joint the elements of this table together to build it. So with that, thank you for watching all the way to the end. See you next time.